why has NIO this kind of quality feeling to it, almost kind of a little bit of this German DNA to it? In this quick video, I want to talk you through a couple of thoughts that I have about this, and also something that I shared with my patrons already. And this all started when I had a look again at the NIO IPO filing, the S1, which every investor should actually read, because it not only tells you about what the company wants to do, but also about the risk factors. So always do that before investing in a company. Anyways, they outlined back in 2018, before they IPO'd, where they want to position NIO as a company in the competition here. And as you can see, they see the landscape has a potential here in the premium segment, so a little bit less price than the German OEMs like Audi, Mercedes, Benz and BMW, but likely much higher price than most of the Chinese competitors so far in the markets, which are entry level and low priced. But interesting here that they point out that Tesla Model Y in China will be likely priced below 45,000 US dollars. And this is cool to see that back then they already anticipated this kind of a pricing, and also made their decision about where they want to position against that. Because nowadays we see that now the immediate launch of Model Y, some bears are taking this for an argument that NIO is kind of not knowing what they're doing here. And in my views, I would make the point that it's quite the contrary. I think there's no coincidence that NIO is actually coming with a totally different business model into this industry, that NIO is actually launching from day one as a global brand, that NIO has attracted really interesting investors, and last but not least, that NIO has kind of this quality feeling to it. You notice it when you sit in their cars and driving it, but also the general setup here doesn't really look like those Chinese EVs or the Chinese car companies that we have known from in the past, right? And I think I have an idea about why this is, and this can be linked back to a German strategy consultancy called Roland Berger. We could call them kind of the ARK Invest of the consulting world in a way, because they are really the go-to guys for automotive and also pharma. They have been in China since many years. They helped the German automotive industry to be successful in China. They know the industry in and out. They have worked with all of the German OEMs, and they have a large team of brilliant consultants, I guess. And it's interesting to see that parts of the management team of NIO, for instance, the director and president of NIO, Li Hongqing, is an ex-Roland Berger strategy consultant. And also here, for instance, the former managing partner of NIO Capital was the global partner and vice president and head of Greater China of automotive in Roland Berger in China. So in my views, and also judging from my personal experience of being an automotive consultant, for instance, working with Audi, with Daimler, in China, with Volkswagen as well, and so on, I can relate to what those guys have probably done in terms of doing many projects with the automotive OEMs in China, learning from it, doing all those different studies. They know exactly like where they can get what kind of prices from suppliers, how the industry is going to develop, and also, of course, what the other OEMs are planning. So in my views, NIO is kind of, this secret or dream project of every consultant, where you can actually say like, what should the future be looking like? What do we do if we see here on the left-hand side, there is the legacy OEM still building all the internal combustion engine cars. And on the right-hand side, we've got Tesla as a new entrant here. And we've got the Chinese industry with lots of spare capacity, for instance, in manufacturing. We want to leapfrog here and go to setting 100% on battery electric vehicles and so far. So in this context, they came up with the business model and the whole setup of NIO, and then kind of founded it, possibly with the help or with influence of the work of Roland Berger here. And so for me, it's no coincidence that the basis of their vehicles as a platform, the EV skateboard, if you will, of NIO is from XPT. They have a platform which ranges from the electric motors, the battery technology and everything else. And this is actually a subsidiary of NIO, and they are actually even building or supplying, for instance, Xiaopeng as well, and will be supplying Western OEMs in the future as well. So NIO often gets criticized for not being vertically integrated, but in my views is that these are smart guys and they have known exactly like which part are we going going to outsource and which part are we having like our own technology that we will use for NIO, but also supplying it to others in this ecosystem of the general EV industry in China and beyond. So they have their own IP and their own manufacturing when it comes to, for instance, the batteries here with the liquid cooling and the swappable battery, of course, as a key innovation here. And if you're a long follower, you also know that I happened to have the chance to meet a co-founder of NIO and also the general manager or founder of XPT, Chuck Chung. And if you look at his bio, I mean, he was the chairman of Fiat in China, the chairman of Magneti Marelli, the vice president of Ford Motor Company, and so on. I'm pretty sure that guys like him have a pretty good understanding of the Chinese automotive world, and also when it comes to costs, for instance, and also to sourcing and which part you can integrate, which part you should outsource, and so on. And also, once again, when it comes to positioning in the markets, when it comes to pricing and competitors there. And although it's still in the early stages with NIO and they are far from being, succeeding in their vision yet, but it's remarkable what they have achieved so far with only 5 billion in investment. When you compare it, for instance, now with the plans of Volkswagen that they will spend a total of 73 billion euros on the transformation to electrification and digitization, and another 27 billion euros on new digital projects. I mean, you need to see like how capital intense NIO is here and how much more return on investment you are getting with a startup like NIO, although of course they are always on the edge when it comes to the financials and in what in terms of capability and capacity that they can do. But once again, as a background here, as a consultant, it sounds a lot to me like these kind of plans that NIO are executing on are kind of the concepts that have been pitched to those OEMs. There is no budget for them in the past because there was no necessity for it, or the managers didn't have the guts or couldn't get their opinion forward in the hierarchy of those larger enterprises there. And so NIO has this quality feel to it because it really has years of experiences coming into that from really smart people. And in the end, they found good investors like Baillie Gifford, like Tencent, like Baidu, and a billionaire and internet entrepreneur as an executing CEO here. And this is what NIO is in my views. And this is once again why I think this approach really resonates with also what I personally see in the industry and also the way that they are approaching and tackling those challenges. And in my views, this should also be the answer to the question of why NIO is going in there with a different business model, why they chose the way to position themselves in the pricing in regards, for instance, to Tesla. Very much so in contrast, for instance, to Xiaopeng, which decided to, trying to compete on price with Tesla Model 3. I think they will have a hard time on that one. And NIO, on the other hand, is kind of going and visiting a different target group here, having more this quality feeling to it, rather competing with the German OEMs, because this is at the very nature and DNA, I think, where NIO is born of. So last but not least, I link an interview here with Jinyi Zhang from NIO Capital that he's done with Roland Berger back in 2017. And then you can judge for yourself on how much they have executed on that vision and also how well they're doing on that. So I hope you guys like this quick video. This time no fancy light setup or no fancy microphone. I hope you excuse that. Have a nice Sunday and see you next week on Monday. I will definitely post my NIO earnings preview. So see you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.